Hey guys, Phil from the UNSW Barbell Club here today, and I'm here to talk to you about mobility. Now, before we begin, the things I'm going to go through today are going to basically need a few apparatus. So it's basically a box, a foam roller, and a ball. Okay, that's all we need today. If you're feeling extra fancy, and if you have done this for a while, PVC pipe is also your friend. So the first thing I'm going to demonstrate with my hips is this. So this action is called flexion, and that action is called extension, okay? The next one I'm going to show you is internal and external rotation. Imagine you have a point on your femur, your thigh bone, that's pointing out. If that point, if you rotate your femur and that point's moving outwards away from your midline, that's called external rotation. The opposite to that is internal rotation, okay? So external rotation is that, and that's internal rotation. I have basically no internal rotation at my hip joint. Okay, so let's talk about your glutes, all right? It's pretty much your rump. But in terms of where they attach to quite a few places. The basic ones I want you to remember and focus on for the purposes of today's video is that it attaches to your femur, the top of your femur. There's also an attachment to your ischial tuberosity. Your ischial tuberosity is basically your butt bone, okay? You know when you have a really skinny person sitting on your lap and you feel that bone digging into your leg? That's your ischial tuberosity, okay? The other points I want you to focus on are your hips. So if everyone puts their hands on the hips, they're not putting their hands up here, roughly around here, right? That's your iliac crest. For the purpose of this video, I'm gonna refer to that as the false hip, okay? Your true hip is actually a bit lower down here. So it's roughly, if you find your iliac crest, move a little bit lower, it'll get a bit more spongy with, you know, some tissue, some flesh and connective tissue and all that. If you go down a little bit further, you'll find this bone sitting out here. It's especially pronounced in women, okay? That's the greater trochanter of your femur, okay? But I'm gonna refer to that lower point, the greater trochanter of your femur, as your true hip for the purposes of this video. Okay, so let's get started, shall we? So we're going to get a ball and we're going to start off in this position. So I'm going to get this ball and put it under my right glute and cross my leg over as such. What you're aiming to do is let your flesh essentially sink into the ball. You're going to then just move around. Just going to move around till you find a tight spot. If you find a tight spot, just sit there and rock out. Okay? We're going to let our flesh sink into the ball and kind of try and relax that glute. For most people who do this for the first time, I suggest a tennis ball, because this will hurt. In terms of the ball path, there are essentially two kind of ball paths I want you to focus on. If you find your ischial tuberosity, just do some basic circles around that, as such. So just circles around the ischial tuberosity with the ball. The next point in particular I want you to focus on is this. If you find your ischial tuberosity, which remember is your butt bone, and then draw a line to your true hip, the greater trochanter of your femur, so it's roughly in that gap in there on me. What you're gonna do is this. In that same position down here, you're gonna roll in between those 2 points, okay? What you're gonna be getting there is a muscle called the piriformis, which is a muscle that is pretty much universally tight on everyone, which is why we're trying to roll it out in a slightly flexed and externally rotated position here. Okay, so that's one area or one path of the ball that I want you to take, okay? The first one being circles around your ischial tuberosity, all right, your butt bone. The second being that kind of line of that area between your true hip and your ischial tuberosity. In order to get glute medius, what you need to do is you're going to be in the same position, but you'll have to lean back a little. Where you roughly wear your pants elastic, around your iliac crest. Your iliac crest is essentially where a lot of people commonly put their hands on their hips. Just underneath that, a little bit lower than your pants elastic, so it was there on me. You're going to sit on the ball and roll that out in particular. Okay, so you might notice that for all the other ones, so for the first ball path, the second ball path, I'm quite upright. This third one, I might need to sink a little bit lower. Okay, so look at where that ball is now. It's a little bit closer to where I'm wearing my pants elastic, and I'm just going to roll out like that. That's the other area of the ball path I want you to take with the ball. Okay. If a ball is too hard, and even if a tennis ball is too hard, you might want to start off with a foam roller. So the same principles apply. Okay, so I'm going to start hands and heels, cross that leg over, lean over, and just move around on my glute, thusly. Okay, I can still kind of get into where my glute medius is if I lean over a little bit and just kind of rock out and pivot on there. Remember, through all of these movements, these movements, which are releasing movements, I want you to focus on really relaxing the muscle that has that pressure applied to it. Okay, another really important part of mobilizing is also stretching. So for your glute and your piriformis, a really effective stretch is known as the pigeon stretch. To set up for the pigeon stretch, the easiest way probably is to get into the full push-up position. You're going to bring, I'm going to use my right foot again, you're going to bring your foot up, your leg up, your shank, so it's parallel with your shoulders, and you're going to sink into it like that. Okay, nice and upright. You'll probably notice that this hip isn't touching the floor. That's probably because I also have tight hip flexors. Some people will be able to sink lower than others, okay? It's really important that you keep your knee at 90 degrees here, and that your lower limb, your shank, is parallel with your shoulders. What a lot of people will do when they get into this position is they'll notice that their lower leg will kind of come in like that, so you don't have that nice perpendicular angle at your knee. If that's the case, it's still a useful stretch. You might be targeting the piriformis more, but you're missing out on your glute max, which is arguably more important. So if you find yourself in this position, or you're really upright, and some people struggle to get into this position as thus, an easier way to do it is you just set up in the normal push-up position, get that leg up there, and instead of sitting down and up as I was, what you're going to do is this, okay? You're going to sit down, drop that back knee, walk your hands forward, and just lean forward over like that. So you bring your chest over and in front while maintaining a nice right angle at the knee. Okay, so that's the simple pigeon stretch. If you feel like you need something a little bit more hardcore, or even if you find that hard, you can easily just find yourself a box and set it up in the same way. So legs across here, and that way, remember keeping this at 90 degrees, keeping your thoracic spine in neutral and slight extension, and just kind of sink into it. So you can use that other leg, which is supporting you on the ground, to vary the intensity of the stretch. Okay, if you find that you feel flexible, you can get that other knee to the ground, fantastic. If you look at my back position, a lot of people, when they do this stretch, will try and go, oh yeah, I'll try and get my knee to the ground, sweet, and then look at their back. It's flexed, you know, it's just a fucking disgusting position, isn't it? Okay, so you want to maintain a nice straight back, you're nice and even, and I don't want to also see people, when they do this stretch, they'll kind of, their hips will rotate and they'll kind of cave in like that, or cave in like that to try and get lower. Okay, we're always emphasizing a good quality spinal position in this case, and moving down, just sitting into there, just rocking out. Okay, if you want to make it even worse for yourself, you can get your chest and bring it over your knee, like thus, and that's another way of emphasizing the stretch. So that's basically the video for your glutes. On the ball, you can spend about 2 to 3 minutes a day. If you're warming up just before a workout, maybe about 15 circles or maybe about a minute. Okay, hope you found this video enjoyable. I'm out, thanks.